Hello, I am John O'Brien from the Keystone Contractors Association, and in 2025 we are continuing our KCA Wellness Chats. They've been going great so far this year, and this one's awesome. I'm very excited about it. There's so many resources out there. There's so much to choose from, to pick from. There's lots of good stuff everywhere you look, and I get overwhelmed. I don't know where to turn, what to do, what's going on. I get a little confused, people. So I got two experts with me today who are going to talk about some great resources, and we're going to get them out to the masses and get these resources out to everyone. But I'm just so excited to have some good friends here and some good experts here. Chris Lalevee from Operating Engineers 825. Sonya Bohmann from, I always butcher this name up, so I'll just let you say it. So I don't see
The
what
Construction Industry Alliance for Suicide Prevention.
I always forget Alliance. I always say, I don't know why.
Okay, it's a mouthful.
It is, but it's
We
all
like
good.
to call it CIASP. That makes it
There you go.
easier.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's great to have you both on. Just
Thanks.
want to take a minute to introduce yourselves quickly, and then we'll jump right in and start talking. Ladies first, Sonya.
Thanks. Thanks, John. I am Sonya Bohmann, and I'm the Executive Director of the Construction Industry Alliance for Suicide Prevention. We are a 501(c)(3) that is focused on providing resources to the industry, 100% free, 100% nonpartisan, 100% double-breasted, so that anybody, whether you are a large, medium, or small company, can access those resources and be able to put together a mental health, suicide prevention, and wellness program for your teams.
Thank you. Great to see you again.
Nice to see you as well.
Chris, you're up.
All right, Chris Lalevee, Operating Engineers, Local 825. That is New Jersey and five lower counties in New York. I run a members assistance program. Work alongside a little bit with Sonya using the resources from CIASP. Always love working with you, John. Um, and just bringing a lot of resources to the industry. Some people don't know about something personal in my life is that I am a 988 operator. So I do that a couple of nights a week, a couple of nights a month. And so happy to be here.
Awesome.
That's so cool, Chris. I can't,
It
like,
is.
I cannot even imagine how much mental fortitude that takes. So thank you for doing that. I know
You're
you're
welcome.
saving
Thank you.
lives every day.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Which, since you brought that up, that's a good place to start. There's so many great resources out there, with 988 being one of them. Why
Mhm.
don't we start right there? What is
Yeah.
it?
Do you want to take that or you want me to?
Go ahead, Sonia.
So 988 is a national resource, and it really came out of that 10-digit number that used to be out there, and that number still works. So it used to be
1
10-digit
800
number, one
2
800 2
273 talk.
talk. That's
Yep.
right. Thanks. I
Got
knew
you.
I had all the numbers all
Yep.
backwards in my head.
Yep. Yep.
And if you want to date yourself, you might remember it is a logic, or it was, it still is, I guess, a Logic song. So the rapper Logic had a song about it and about the suicide prevention hotline number. I guess it's almost 3 years ago now, they truncated that number to make it easier for people to access, and they made it 988. So 988 is a national suicide prevention crisis hotline number. What's great about 988, though, is that you don't have to just use it if you're in crisis. You can contact 988 if you are in crisis, if you're concerned about someone in crisis, or if you're with someone in crisis. And it's not just about suicide, but if you are experiencing any kind of mental crisis, whether it is substance use or suicidal ideation, or really just a feelings of despair or despondency, you can reach out to them as well. You can call, you can chat, and you can text, all of which are available. And currently, all numbers are still active in their system, whether you are a veteran or a specialized community, you can still access all of the resources available through 988.
So when you say they're all still available, are
Mm-hmm.
you dialing 988 and then they direct you somewhere else from that initial call?
Yeah. So if you were a veteran, you push a certain number. If you are calling from the LGBTQ plus community and you were looking for that kind of specialized support, you hit a separate number. And there's a couple of other different marginalized communities that have their own sort of separate branch of the number, all of which are still active at the moment as of, May of 2025.
Yeah. And when we look at 988, it's important to remember that 3-digit number can both be called and texted. So
Mm-hmm.
you can text 988 direct and it is going to 988. You will get somebody. Some people are more comfortable with texts.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you could also go to their website, which is 988lifeline.org, and there's a chat option. So if you're somebody comfortable on a computer, so they've made it so you can get to them 3 different ways. The old text line that and it's still around, is 741-741. That's called crisis text line. That is still very much active. And I forget which entity runs that, Sonia. If you remember, I'm not sure.
I
But it
don't
is,
remember who does, but it is separate from 988.
yes.
So it's another option
Yep.
to be able to reach help if you need it, which is great because while 92% of the calls that are the contacts that are sent through to 988 are answered, there is sometimes a little bit of a wait time. I think the average wait time now is 35 seconds or something like that. But if you're feeling despondent and you need someone faster, you might need to reach out to an additional number.
Yeah, and when you call 988, it's important to know that they are going to ask if you feel like you're going to hurt yourself,
Mm-hmm.
or if you're going to hurt anybody else. You know, unfortunately, they do have to put people in that type of crisis ahead of others. But to Sonia's point, and very true, it doesn't have to be just crisis of hurting yourself. You could be somebody with anxiety, substance misuse, feeling like you're falling off of recovery, um, sexual orientation worry, loneliness, trauma, you name it. There is no bad reason to call 988. And I always stress that it's very important people know you can call it with somebody. So if I was with you, John, and I wasn't sure what to do, I could pick up 988 and Sonia pick up if she was the operator, and I could say, I'm here with my friend John. This is what we're going through together.
Yeah.
Um, because not everybody knows,
Yeah.
but people genuinely want to help. So you do have that lifeline of someone else there that will say to you, hey, hey John, it's Sonia, and good that you're there with your friend Chris. And we start talking that way. um I tell people to give it a text and just check
Try
it.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
try it out. See what happens.
There's nothing wrong with saying, hi, my name's John, I am not in crisis, just wanted to see how this works.
Mm-hmm.
Believe me, it's
Yeah.
it's a great thing. I get very happy when I see that text or chat pop up or a call. Um, for people with anxiety, there's resources. Through text, hyperlinks get sent.
Mm-hmm.
If we're on the phone, we ask for your phone number. Is it okay to text you? We could text you links. Different places that go right to different resources right away. And I think it's important to highlight that. They're sitting at about a 92 percentile of de-escalation, and
Mm-hmm.
that's
Uh,
big.
Yeah,
yeah.
That's
absolutely.
really big.
That's awesome.
But
I
there's
mean, the
other
goal
there's
is that
other
commitment,
options.
Yeah.
right?
There's other options. Sonia and I were speaking the other
Yeah.
day, and Sonia, we were talking about NAMI, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
A-
absolutely.
And and you know, do you have those notes in front of you or information on the NAMI
I
stuff
do.
in front of you?
Yeah. I mean, I think that what's really great about NAMI is that they have chapters all around the country, and they have different resources per chapter. So I would always recommend going to NAMI.org, and then you can find for your own state specific or your own county, sometimes even a NAMI warm line. So if you just go to NAMI.com and type in directory, I'm sorry, NAMI.org and type in directory, you'll be able to find a list of warm lines that are near you. Not all of them are staffed 24/7, and they are typically, you will get a human on the line and they will walk you through that de-escalation again, or sometimes it's just a conversation that helps you feel more secure.
Yeah,
Um,
and with NAMI as well, if you look into your local NAMIs, you'll find that they have virtual groups.
Mm-hmm.
They probably 5 to 7 a day, virtually all
Yeah.
different times a day and all different topics. So
Mhm.
finding like-minded people, finding peers, finding, discussions, especially for the people that are, living in the less congested areas,
Mhm.
harder to get to, things like that. I do the same. I urge people to go, check out NAMI, go to NAMI, find your local NAMI. Um, Nonprofit, just great organization, has been around, for quite a while now. So, um, and they may have something specific to your state, your county, your town, even. You'd be very surprised the information that they have. And if you are looking for something, just a great resource to have.
And there's,
Absolutely.
yeah, and there's no commitment, right? So if there's peer groups, whatever, I want to try it out. It's not, you
No,
don't feel as
no,
if you
I'm
have to be
actually,
locked in.
actually to be a member of NAMI National, I pay my dues every year. It's $40.
Okay.
And for me, it's $40 well spent.
Mhm.
Um, they do different things. They do, here in New Jersey, they do some get-togethers where there's walks and awareness things.
Yep.
And at all these events, you start to find people that are tabling, whether it may be
Mhm.
something for the youth, maybe something for the elderly. Just there's always new and resources that are there that people don't realize.
Yeah. But
Um,
if you want to dip your feet in the water and check out a virtual peer group, there's no commit. You
No
can just,
commitment.
no
Yep.
commitment. No.
that's what
You
people
can
need to
drop in
know.
and drop out whenever you need to any of
Yep.
them, which is kind
Yep.
of great because you can try out a couple ones to see which one fits you best.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and when you look at bounce off NAMI, and we have Mental Health America, that's another one. Mental Health America follows 988 when it comes to lines, and but there's another one with really, really good everyday groups, and I think they're up to about 20 some groups a day, and
Wow.
that's virtual. Um,
Mhm.
some they have like in every other week, some they have in every other month, but it's free to get on their emailing list. Same with NAMI. It's totally free, and
Yeah.
you'll get the information, you'll get the reminders.
Mhm.
I know with Mental Health America, they ask you to register.
Hmm.
If they don't have anybody within like the 30 minutes, I guess, usually you see they cancel the group, just and move on. But again, it's just great resources. It's free, and you tell it to people, and they're like, "What? Like that's actually
Right.
there?" you know.
Yeah.
Um,
I think
so
that's the important thing is that there's so many resources out there that people just don't know exist and that they're available and that they are of no cost
Yep.
and no commitment. And there's no real identifying information that you have to give. So you really can remain relatively anonymous through all of this. They're going to look for some information so that they can make sure that they're supporting in the most appropriate way, but you don't have to give away a whole lot to be able to
Yeah.
be part of them, and it's just another opportunity to find support in places, especially if we're talking about the construction industry, where sometimes people are worried about reaching out to their insurance because they don't want that sort of tracking, or they're afraid to reach out to their EAP because they don't quite know how that works, or their union house because of whatever's happening there.
Yep.
So it gives them that additional layer of anonymity and maybe a little bit of control when they're feeling out of control to just get their bearings. And then once they've done that, they can reach back into the places that are also there to support them as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And
yeah,
you,
there's
sorry, go
so
ahead,
much
Chris.
there, and there's so much there, and I love to put it just simplistically, like we don't have to reinvent the wheel. The wheel is
You
already in
really don't.
motion. The
Mhm.
wheel is already turning, and people with a lot of great forethought, you know, prior to us, and
Mhm.
we're carrying the torch, and we're bettering it and bettering it, which is a great thing. Even SAMSHA has a line.
Yep.
SAMHSA has a ton. There was a new line, Chris. I'm not sure if you know about this or you, John, as well, because I honestly just discovered it. And of course, it's been around for a really long time. But 211,
Yes.
211 is actually a It's essential community services. So they can help connect you to food. They can help connect you to housing, and they can actually help connect you to mental health services. So they are not a crisis line, but they will help connect. They're a connector, I would
Okay.
say. And when we know that some of those additional outside pressures are things that affect our mental health, it's a great resource to have in conjunction with some of those other resources as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like a full resource connector. I know through
Mhm.
like the New York, New Jersey area, it's run by the United Way.
I was just going to say that.
Um,
Yeah, that's where most of
Okay.
them are run
so
through. Hmm.
and I don't know the United Way's reach across the country, but honestly, if you're looking for shelter, if you're looking for a warming house in the winter,
Hmm.
these are all real things, and they happen to the people that are in construction. You know, when somebody is not doing great, whether that's their mental health, possibly addiction, you'd be very surprised how you run across somebody and you say, "Boy, this person makes great money. They're living in their car, literally living
Hmm.
in their car."
Yeah.
Um, they may have overspended, they may be in debt up to their ears, and have another issue. But, knowing that you could call something like 211 and say, "Hey, my friends, he needs a place where he could shower,
Hmm.
stay in an above 30 area tonight," that's important stuff.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's important stuff. And then, people start feeling better and you can address other things,
Right. When we
you
take care
know?
of our basic needs, we can take care of the additional needs as well.
Yep.
But it
Absolutely.
really, they all compound on top of each other. So just knowing that you have options, I think, is what's really important.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
along with this video, we're going to have a list of all the resources. And I'm glad you brought up 211 because that was going to be one of my questions. I never heard of that until you sent it to me. And that is
Right.
nationwide, right?
Well, we
Nationwide.
It is
say
absolutely
we
nationwide.
say
Yeah.
988 crisis, 911 emergency,
Yep.
211 resources.
That's
If you
great.
if you
Awesome.
remember it like that, they're national lines, they're all there to help. And when you look at that whole 988/911 track, 988 developed. When you look at it, it started with somebody to call, and now they're rolling out somebody to come. Somebody to come is what's called M-Court mobile responders, plainclothes people that will go out with police. You don't have badge and gun in hand and all that other stuff. And then by 2027, they want to have a place to go, which is going to almost be to the vein of a, you know, what do the places like if you had a cold, you might
Urgent
get a
care.
prescription like an
An
urgent
urgent
care,
care. Yeah.
but
Yep.
more
But
designated for mental health and addiction.
uh,
I don't think people realize that 23,000 intakes in the emergency rooms across America, that's daily, are due to mental health and addiction.
really,
So,
say that again.
not 20
23,000.
23,000 a,
23,000.
a day.
Man, a
And,
day.
with 988, it has taken away a lot of extra that 911 was handling. With this whole plan of attack, it's a great plan of attack. Um, and it was, congressional plan,
Mhm.
and everybody voted yes on it, which is a very cool thing.
That is awesome.
Um, you know, but there is a problem, and if we can get the people with, having heart attacks and strokes into the emergency room, and people having issues and wanting to get help with mental health and addiction into another place, I think it's going to be a really good. It'll be really good. It'll be a little crazy getting there. There's a couple of flaws here and there, but that's what's going to happen when you roll out something new.
Yep.
I think it's also really important, Chris, you brought up a great point, is knowing if your county or your local area, especially on a job site that is one that you've just set up in an area, know if there is mobile crisis available and what the number is to that, because they're going to be different everywhere in the country. And if you don't know if there isn't mobile crisis available, where's your closest crisis intake center? So there's a lot of different resources to help find that. One of them is findtreatment.org.
Hmm.
Mhm.
The other one is findsupport.gov. You can use both of those to help do that. You can Google in your own area where to find those. There's lots of resources that will come up as well. But many counties in many states have mobile crisis where they will come to you. Philadelphia County, where I am adjacent to, has the one of the first walk-in mental health urgent cares, like Chris was just talking about. They are popping up all over the country. Know if you've got one and know how to use it.
Awesome.
Yep.
Very cool.
Yeah, and it's just a great thing. It really is a great thing. And Philly was like one of the whole testers
Right.
of the walk-in
Mm-hmm.
clinic
Yep.
kind of thing. But um now when you bring it all together and you have, through 988, if somebody asks for mobile crisis response, it may be there, it may not be there.
Right.
Of course, right
It's
now,
county specific.
yeah, in New Jersey, it's starting to roll out county by county. So we're getting it. Um, where to take them yet is
It's always a
still up,
challenge.
still up in the air. But
Mm-hmm.
pushing forward, it'll be a great thing. It
Yep.
really will be. And when you think about the amount of when that number, that's a shocking number when you hear it, and it's a shocking number when you tell it to an audience and they all look like, wow. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and you think of yourself, sitting in the emergency room with your son or daughter with a broken arm.
Mm-hmm.
You want attention. You
Yep.
want attention,
Right.
but the nurses and doctors can only do so much.
Yep.
So it's a good thing. And they started rolling out even in the emergency rooms. I don't know if anybody's been to an emergency room recently, but they started rolling out asking if you feel like you're hurting yourself. Um, finding out where your head's at
Yeah.
while they're doing your blood pressure and things like that.
Yep.
Um, I had an issue where I took my son 2 years ago to the emergency room, and then they asked me to leave, which I
Mm-hmm.
respected, and I know, that is
Sure.
that is your father, is your father good to you, those kind of things, because it's out there,
Yeah.
it's out there, and it's unfortunately right under all our noses. You know,
Yeah.
how often do we see something or hear something and we go, "Oh my God, not him or not her."
Yeah.
How was that? How was that 2 doors away from me and I didn't know?
Right. Yeah.
Um, you know, so it's very, very real.
It is.
It's very real.
How about a little situation here?
Sure.
Okay. Picture, if you will, I'm hanging drywall. I know it's tough to see me doing physical work here, but just picture that. And I got a coworker, and some of his comments and actions, I'm kind of concerned. I'm like, does he have suicidal thoughts, addiction issues? He has some issues going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I've said, "Have you heard of 988?" And he kind of brushes me off and ignores me. I've had some other resources. Here's a pamphlet. Here's this. He just throws them away in the trash. Um, what do you do? Do I call 988 and then ask for advice? Do I like what do I do as a worker? How to help my fellow coworker that
I
doesn't
think you
want
have
help, that pushes you away?
I think you have a lot of different
Yeah.
options. If you really are concerned that your coworker is suicidal, then you've got to ask the question. And I think to demystify the question, so to speak, is that you are not going to put the thoughts of suicide into someone's head if you ask them, "Are you thinking of suicide?" But
Hmm.
it's a tough question to ask. So if
Yeah.
you have been watching all of those signs and you've had the conversation that is, "Hey, are you okay?" And they tell you, "Yeah, yeah, I'm fine," as we always do. And you ask a little deeper, sometimes you have to say very specifically, like, I know you because we've worked together for a really long time and I care about you, but I've noticed, and then those warning signs that you've noticed. I've noticed that you've been talking a lot about death, that
Hmm.
you have been saying things like your life isn't worth living. And sometimes when someone is saying those things, they're thinking of suicide. Are you thinking of suicide?
Hmm.
And you wait for the answer. They're either going to say yes or they're going to say no. If they say yes, that's your perfect opportunity for the two of you to reach out to 988 if that's what they're looking for. And you can say, "Listen, I want to get you help. This is a really serious issue and I'm here for you. Let's do this together." And what that really does is that it allows where those suicidal thoughts and those suicidal actions are sort of overlaying each other when we have all of those risk factors. And it gives you some space and some time between them having the thoughts and them being able to carry out thoughts or the access to their lethal means. And that's really where we get to save lives. And then you have the support resources that we talked about
Mhm.
that allow you to help them through that conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, well said. And it's important to make it personal.
Yep.
I'm
Right.
worried about you.
I care about you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm worried about you. You know, we always see the phrases "you matter," "you're not alone,"
Mhm.
things like that, and those are very real phrases. Those,
Mhm.
though they really hit home. And to say to somebody, "I'm worried about you," the way you've been speaking the past couple of days, and you said something a little off base, and I'm worried that you may hurt yourself or you want to hurt yourself. Is this something that you're really thinking of doing? To Sonia's point, now you're breaking it down. I'm worried I gave you some information. I saw you just throw it in the garbage, but I'm worried about you. You're my friend, you're my coworker. I care about you.
Mhm.
And one of the best things you can do is make a plan for the next day. So when I say make a plan for the next day, um, that would be, hey John, I'm sorry you're feeling like this, and I feel you're in a good spot right now and we're not in crisis, but I'm glad you're thinking about it. I'm glad you were honest with me. Can we go get like, a cup of coffee tomorrow morning and talk about it a little bit more?
Yeah.
Not that right there that it's all over, but also that plan of action for the next day takes the person's mind and makes them feel, well, I have something to do, so I can't do that today. Believe it or not, it's pretty much, it's like a scientifically proven thing. And it's, okay, so we can have that conversation. I've had those conversations and I've
Mhm.
had that cup of coffee to where um sometimes it's like, it furthers to where we need to get you better help and more professional help. Sometimes it's like, I don't know what the hell I was thinking,
Yeah.
and we can work out a couple of things. And you start talking about NAMI groups and different chats and different things that are there. Hey, I get it. You don't want to go through your insurance, like Sonia was saying. You don't want
Yeah.
people to know. Why don't you check out this?
Right.
Um, and now you have some options. Now you're having a real conversation.
Yep.
And it's 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 interesting, and that's where the lives get saved. I had something happen to me this year, and I've been doing this for quite some time. And I went and gave a presentation at a facility um, that has all kinds of different people, maintenance people, kind of construction, this, that, and the other thing. But they've been asking me for the past couple of years. And a guy walked up to me when I got done this year and he said hello to me, and he very distinct face, so I remembered him. I said, "How are you?" And he said, "I'm doing a lot better." And I said, "That's awesome." Um, I couldn't remember his story, but he said it to me. He goes, "Well, my divorce is final. I'm living, but I do see my kids, this, that, and the other thing." And he goes, "And I just wanted," he goes, "I'm so happy you're here because I want to thank you." And I was like, "Well, you're welcome." He goes, "I've had your card in my pocket, but I never called you."
Hmm.
I'm like, "Well, you now I remembered." I said, "Listen, you ever need to talk?" And I handed him my business card. I said, "My mobile number's on there. Just give me a call." Um, he told me last year, the day that I came out there, that night was the night he was taking his life.
Hmm.
And he goes, you came out, you did the safety talk about mental health and depression and suicide and self-medication and all this. And I'm like, it stopped me.
Mhm.
He goes, and now what I do, he's like one of the maintenance guys, and it's a very large facility. I'm going to keep that nameless, but every Wednesday he's there at 6 a.m. And if anybody has an issue, he calls it just like morning coffee.
Oh, nice.
And so he comes in at 6 a.m. and like that hit me so hard to where I was like, oh my God, like that really happened. But I'm happy. Believe me, I'm happy. But then to take the action of saying, you know what, I'm going to pay this forward.
Nice.
And
That's
he goes,
awesome.
he's like, sometimes Wednesdays I sit there and nobody comes in. He said, sometimes Wednesdays, I'll have two, three guys and we'll
Nice.
just all talk. And, but, life's problems come and, they build on
Mhm.
people. And it's It's interesting, even with 988 being a man, how many, times they'll say, can you take this call? It's a, sure. It's
Yeah.
just it's a different comfort level.
Yeah.
And I get it.
It's sometimes it's just as simple as, you mentioned some of the other catchphrases earlier, but just letting someone know that they're not alone. So just having your card in his pocket was enough to give him that
Yeah.
Awesome.
support that he needed, just having that extra. That's why many of our organizations have created those 988 chips or hard hat stickers. It's just that extra piece of connection, that extra piece of community that people sometimes need. Our industry can be so isolating, and
Mhm.
it can be challenging, right? And so if we have just that additional layer of support, or that additional layer of saying you've got other options, you've got people that you can reach out to, that's really where we have that opportunity to make a difference and keep people safe.
Absolutely. Well said.
Yeah, there's so much that we can do, and there's so much getting done, which is good. And I hope it stays the course, and that's all I'm going to say about that. But I hope it stays the course, and there's people out there that need it, and it's
Mhm.
working, and it's good. You know, one last thing that I would want to add, that when you look at your different American Foundation of Suicide Prevention, SAMHSA, NAMI, Mental Health America. mm, These are all places that have really great free handouts.
Right.
Yep.
They'll
Great
give you
resources, all of
as
them.
much as you want,
Mhm.
so you want them for your workplace, you want them for your job sites.
Mhm.
Um, you know,
And we have them too. So please feel
Yep.
free to
yeah,
reach out to us at preventconstructionsuicide.com.
absolutely. When you look at some of
Yeah.
CIASP's,
Good stuff.
just
Yeah.
just
Yep.
just taking the pledge is
Yeah.
huge. Just taking the pledge. And it
Yep.
doesn't cost you anything,
Yeah,
Yep.
you
please
know?
use them. One of the resources that we didn't talk about that's kind of new that I wanted to make sure we share, especially
Hmm.
with your listeners, John,
Yep.
is that Lines for Life in Oregon has had for some time now their own hotline for construction workers, but they have just made it national. So that number is 1-833-444-6020. It is construction specific, and it is manned 24/7. It's a crisis line.
Yep. And
Lines
it's
for life. There it is. Yeah, we'll
yep.
get that
Mhm.
out too. We're going to get a long list of resources
Yeah.
out. This is awesome.
This one is,
Yep.
I think it's so special. It's brand new.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
brand new from a national standpoint, but being able, or from a local standpoint, but the national side of
Yep.
it is now new, and it's pretty amazing.
That's awesome.
Man, the West Coast is rolling out such great stuff, and here we are in the East. I mean, can we
We're
really,
making it happen, Chris. We're
can we
Yeah.
making it
really let them
happen.
win? Come on, come on.
Come on. Let's go.
Who doesn't like a good competition? If we're gonna have
Yeah.
competition, why don't we have something like them?
Let's do it that saves
Yeah.
lives, right?
And help the workers. It's all about the workers. Yes.
That's right.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, this is awesome. I think if we all do our small part, we all just promote a little bit or do this or do that, and get this
Right,
out. Make sure people
right.
know. I think
Yeah.
collectively we can make a difference, whether it's West
Absolutely.
Coast or East Coast.
No, exactly. And it's getting it in and getting it into your safety plan.
Yeah.
Getting it into a safety plan to where you could, with the different toolbox talks, you could roll those in. If you did one every other month, it would
Yep.
it would be great.
Right.
It's great that I'm busy during Mental Health Awareness Month. It's great that I'm busy during Suicide Prevention Month. I'd like to be able to give a talk to a crew once a month.
Yep.
That, to me, that would be a win.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
in the
And there's,
middle, in the middle of the summer, it's dead, and it's high season, and it's let's go.
Yep.
But
And that's when they need it most.
just even
yes, that is
thinking
when they need it
Yeah.
most.
thinking about your substance intake on your holiday weekends.
Yeah.
Right.
Something simple.
I hear you.
But we just came off the long weekend, and there's some people that aren't too happy being at work right now, right? So
Yeah.
we'll say it like that. And it is what it is. But
Right.
pay attention to it. Pay
Mhm.
attention to it, and that way you stay safe. You don't get in an accident, whether that's on the street or on the job site.
Absolutely.
Yep. Well, thank you both so much. We're going to get some resources out there, and it's always great chatting with both of you. Sonya from the Construction Alliance of Suicide Prevention. Oh, I forgot
Construction Industry
industry. Industry.
Alliance.
I forgot the I. Yeah, I told
He's
you.
gonna
You'll
get
get
it.
there. You'll get there.
And good old Chris from OE 825, New Jersey, New York. So
Thanks,
always
John.
good
Great
there.
talking to you.
Thank
You bet.
you. Thanks
Thank
for
you,
having us
Sonya.
again.
You
Thanks.
bet.
Take
Take
care,
care.
guys.
See ya.
Have a good
Bye-bye.
one. Bye bye.